Hello everyone, my name is Sitender Chaudhary and welcome to all of you to this crash course which is brought to you by Prepp IAS। दोस्तों इस क्रैश कोर्स में एनवायरमेंट इकोलॉजी के रिगार्डिंग जितने भी सेक्शंस होते हैं हम सभी सेक्शंस को एक एक करके यहाँ पे कवर करने वाले हैं। पहले हम लोग इकोलॉजी वाले सेक्शंस को कवर करेंगे, उसके बाद हम लोग एनवायरमेंट वाले सेक्शंस को कवर करेंगे और बाद में एनवायरमेंट वाले सेक्शन में हम लोग कुछ इंटरनेशनल ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस वगैरह करेंगे, तो वहाँ पे करंट अफेयर का एस्पेक्ट भी हम लोग यहाँ पे करने वाले हैं। वन मोर थिंग, बिकॉज दिस इज अ क्रैश कोर्स, सो आवर फोकस इज गोइंग टू बी ओनली ऑन द प्रीलिम्स। मेंस में हम लोग यहाँ पे ऐसा फोकस नहीं करने वाले हैं। और वैसे आई अज्यूम कि आपने पहले से एनवायरमेंट इकोलॉजी बेसिक रूप से एटलीस्ट आपने एनसीईआरटी तो पढ़ा ही होगा, क्योंकि अगर आपने एनसीईआरटी वगैरह पढ़ा है तब आप इस क्रैश कोर्स को बेटर तरीके से समझ सकते हो, कंटेंट को बहुत अच्छे से ग्रैब कर सकते हो। तो आई अज्यूम कि आपने वो पढ़ा होगा। हालांकि अगर आपने नहीं पढ़ा है तो भी इट्स ओके, बिकॉज बहुत सिंपल लैंग्वेज में और कंटेंट भी बहुत एकदम सिंपल टू अंडरस्टैंड लैंग्वेज में बनाया गया है, तब भी आप समझ में जाओगे, कोई ऐसी इशू नहीं है। बट स्टिल इट वुड बी बेटर अगर आपने पहले से पढ़ा होगा तो। जो 2023 के लिए प्रीलिम्स दे रहे हैं, तो दिस इज गोइंग टू बी मोर बेनिफिशियल फॉर देम। तो बेसिक सा कंटेंट हमारा यहाँ पे कवर हो जाएगा बहुत अच्छे से। और एनवायरमेंट इकोलॉजी में अगर आप देखें तो जो जो नेचर होता है एग्जाम का, वो कैसा होता है, मेजरली करंट अफेयर बेस्ड होता है। तो ये बेसिक अंडरस्टैंडिंग हम लोग इस क्रैश कोर्स में अगर कर लेते हैं पूरे सब्जेक्ट की, उसके साथ अगर हम लोग करंट अफेयर तैयार कर लेते हैं, तो बिलीव मी बहुत अच्छी प्रेपरेशन आपकी हो जाएगी। 80 to 90% क्वेश्चन को सोल्व करने की, बेटर तरीके से अटेम्प्ट करने की पोजीशन में आप पहुंच जाओगे। तो ज्यादा डिले बिल्कुल भी नहीं करते हैं, सीधा करते हैं काम की बात और शुरुआत करते हैं अपने क्रैश कोर्स की आज की पहली वीडियो से, जहां पे हम लोग एनवायरमेंट और इकोलॉजी की बेसिक अंडरस्टैंडिंग करने वाले हैं। ये क्या होता है, इसके कंपोनेंट्स क्या होते हैं, तो थोड़ा सा हम लोग वहां पे देखेंगे। चलिए तो सीधा बढ़ते हैं पहले टॉपिक पे। और पहला टॉपिक शुरू होता है अपना इकोलॉजी से। व्हाट इज इकोलॉजी, फिर बात करेंगे व्हाट इज एनवायरनमेंट, और दोनों के बीच में डिफरेंस आप समझ जाओगे यहाँ पे क्या है। इकोलॉजी विच इज अ टर्म विच वॉज यूज बाय मिस्टर अर्नस्ट हैकल in 1869, and it's a combination of actually two words. One is ocus और अदर इज हाउस। देखिए यूपीएससी में इस तरह की चीजें नहीं पूछता है कि बताओ इसका मतलब क्या है। इट इज जस्ट टू टेल यू कि अच्छा ऐसा ऐसे करके होता है। 1869 ये बड़ा कीवर्ड है, ये आपने याद रखना है। दिस इज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट ईयर। 1869 is also very important year for the international trade. Do you have some idea what I'm talking about? You have some idea? If you have idea, just write in the comment section. 1869 के अंदर ऑफिशियली स्वेज कनाल ओपन अप हो गई थी फॉर इंटरनेशनल ट्रेड। जब वो कनाल ओपन हुई थी तो इंडिया से एक्सपोर्ट करके ले जाना ब्रिटेन में, यूरोप में बहुत आसान हो गया था। बिकॉज आपका अफ्रीका क्रॉस करके नहीं जाना है, आप सीधा रेड सी से क्रॉस होके, सीधा आप इजिप्ट में स्वेज कनाल से क्रॉस होके मेडिटेरेनियन ओशन के अंदर एंट्री कर सकते हो, एंड यू कैन सेव लॉट ऑफ टाइम। 1869 के अंदर ही इकोलॉजी एज अ टर्म को कोइन किया गया था बाय जर्मन बायोलॉजिस्ट अर्नस्ट हैकल। ओकस मींस होम and logos means study. What is our home? This earth is our home. The place where I live, the place where you live, we live, that is our home. And our home, like suppose you are living in a city, you are living in a Delhi, so that Delhi is your home. In Delhi also, that colony, that area where you are living is your home. In that colony also, the actual home where you are living, where is your bedroom, your kitchen, that is your home. So when we study our home on different levels, your home, your colony, your area, your city, then your state, then your country, then the whole continent, then the world. When we study this home on the different levels, that becomes a complete ecology, because ecology can exist at every level. So ecology simply means it's the study of our home, of the nature. Ecology is defined as the scientific study. Look, this is the scientific branch. Scientific study of a relationship of the living organism with each other, with their environment. Ecology is a study of the relationship between living organisms, including humans, and their physical environment. Right? In a particular area, there are different living beings who are there. Different organisms are there. Suppose I'm living in some area, so here there are going to be plants. I am dependent on plants. Yes, I am dependent on other human beings also. Right? We have animal and at my home also. So we are different living beings. We have a relationship with each other, and all these living beings who are interacting with each other, they are also in a direct contact with the physical environment also, like temperature. like air, like pressure, right? Like we also need sun heat also for the photosynthesis for different purposes. So living beings are connected with each other with a different relationship, and these living beings are connected with their outside surrounding as well. So that relation or that branch of the science or that scientific study which studies the relation between different organisms and their relation with the surrounding is called ecology. Simply language में अगर बात करें, it deals with the ways in which organisms are molded by their environment, how they make use of their environmental resources, including energy flow and the mineral cycle. So wherever an organism is living, the one task, the one and only task that organism is actually doing throughout the life is to survive. How to survive with the resources which are available locally. That is the task of an organism. So in order to survive, you need to consume food. You need to interact with other organisms. You need to have a proper balanced relation with the physical environment also. That is ecology. That is ecology, that how a one body or one organism individual actually interacts with the surrounding. How that individual actually uses the natural resources in order to survive. And in order to survive, there needs to be energy flow. There needs to be mineral flow also. When I consume food, I get some nutrients. With those nutrients, my growth is ensured. When I die, those nutrients are transferred again into the atmosphere, and from there it can enter into somebody else's body. So that whole cycle, nutrient cycle, mineral cycle, use of the resources, and interdependence of the natural beings with the physical environment is actually a part of your ecological study that we are going to cover later on. Another thing which is there, which is environment. Environment. Environment is just basically your surrounding. राइट व्हेन यू आर इन ए क्लासरूम तो हम लोग बोलते हैं ना कई बार आज का एनवायरनमेंट बहुत बढ़िया है, मतलब जिस चीजों के साथ आप सराउंड होते हो, घिरे हुए होते हो, दैट इज कॉल्ड एनवायरनमेंट. तो एनवायरनमेंट इज बेसिकली अ सम टोटल ऑफ द लिविंग नॉन लिविंग components, influences and the events surrounding an organism. So whatever you are surrounded with will make a part of your environment. Those components we are surrounded with, they can be living beings, they can be non-living beings, they can be anything. They can be any event also, any influence also. Like there is volcanic eruption happening in your surrounding, right? That becomes a part of your environment. There are tides happening. You are living in a coastal area, there are tides. That's a part of your environment, right? You are living, suppose some island in the Pacific Ocean, and you are having constant cyclones. That becomes a part of your environment. Okay, you are having you have a cow and you are dependent on that cow for the milk. That also becomes type of your environment because you are surrounded with that. Everything that surrounds or affects an organism during the lifetime is collectively known as the environment. But when you die, this is a very important keyword, during the lifetime only. But once you die, it is not your environment anymore. You become a part of the surrounding of somebody else. Because the nutrients that were in your body, when we die, they become a part of the surrounding of somebody else. All organisms, from virus to man, all organisms are obligatorily dependent on other organisms and environment for food, energy, water, oxygen, shelter. And this word is important, obligatory. Like we do not have a choice that we want to depend on other organisms or not. No, we don't have a choice. It is mandatory to depend on others because without that we cannot survive. Not even a plant can survive without interaction with other factors. Plant also need nutrients. Plants also need temperature, heat, sunlight, water, right? For that, it also depends. I can also not survive without the interaction. I need food to consume. I need shelter to live, right? I need somebody else to speak with. So that is your environment. Basically, your surrounding is environment. Components of the environment. The components of environment and components of ecology are actually same. They are actually same. They are actually same. So we will cover about the component of ecology later on. But just for the sake of introduction, let me tell. Biotic means green plants, non-green plants, decomposers, parasites, symbionts, animals, man, everything which is around you and which is living. That's the biotic component. Abiotic component means energy, radiation, temperature and the heat flow, water, atmospheric gases, wind, fire, gravity, topography, soil, etc. etc. We will see into that later on with much detail, of course. Now, this is a topic which is also covered in your NCERT. Levels of organization in an ecology. I already told you that we have different levels. We have our home, we have our area, we have our city, then we have a state, then we have a country, we have continent, and we have the whole world. That is also a kind of level of ecology or the organizations. So ecology means interaction, and at which level that interaction can take place is the level of organization. So what about the levels of organization? It starts with individual. It starts with single person. It starts with single organism. Then it becomes complex and it becomes larger and larger and larger. So in this article or in this section of the video, we are going to see that which kind of organizations are there in the ecology. Okay, so it starts with individual, then population, community, ecosystem, biome, and the biosphere. So let's dive into that. Individual organism. Individual means simply a single unit of anything. That is the meaning of individual. Here we are talking about organism. So a single organism is called individual organism. Single organism of anything. Like you take the population of dog in your area. You take single dog, one dog. You take one cat. You take one bacteria. You take one human being. So individual. I am the individual. I am the most basic unit in ecology of organization. I am the basic unit. I am the single individual. It is the lowest level of organization, which includes both unicellular and the multicellular organism. I am multicellular organism. There may be some bacteria which are unicellular. The organization is also there. Organization here also in my body. All living species in this level exhibit all characteristics required for the existence of life. So my body is capable of surviving. My body has all functions. It performs all functions which is required for the existence of life. If all human beings are eliminated from the earth, I can still survive because my body has all ingredients, all mechanism which makes life possible. Yes, an individual living being that has the ability to act function independently. You can act independently also, right? I'm not saying that you are not dependent on other factors. Still, suppose I am the one person on this earth, everybody is gone. Still, I need to interact with other organisms. I need food, so I need plants. I need heat. I need air to breathe, right? Individual independency doesn't mean that you don't need anything else. It just means if you are individual, you have all the capability inside your body or biologically that you can survive. Every single plant and animal species on the planet, right from the microorganismic bacteria and fungi to the mammoth blue whale and the giant sequoia, finds a place at this level. Doesn't matter which organism, you just take the single one, from a very simple bacteria to elephant, to human, to dog, anything. So if you take individual, that is called individual. Then comes the population, right? Suppose in my city, there are different organisms are living there. There are dogs, there are cats, there are human beings. Yes, there are cows. They are different species which are living there. Now, what is the meaning of population? When we take more than one organisms of a single species, it becomes a population. So when we consider all the dogs in my vicinity or in my city, that becomes the population of the dog. When we consider all cows that how many cows are there in my city, that becomes the population of the cow. So when we take similar type of species in a particular region and you calculate their number, that becomes the population. So population of dogs, population of cats, population of human beings, population of cows, that will become the population. So it comprises the population of individual species featuring in the first level, right? तो पहले लेवल पे जो इंडिविजुअल्स थे, नाउ यू कंबाइंड दोज इंडिविजुअल्स टुगेदर एंड हियर कम्स द पॉपुलेशन पार्ट. Population refers to the group of species living together in a demarcated geographical area. I told you, in your city, in your state, in your country, becomes the population. Like we talk about the population of the tiger in India. So we are considering only one species, which is tiger. So we are actually calculating all individual species in India, and we come up with a number, and that is called population of the tiger. It describes a group of organisms of a single species, look, single species, living together within a particular geographical area by interbreeding and competing with each other for the resources. So that single species also interbreeds. They need to have their offsprings. They need to reproduce also. So dogs in my city are going to reproduce next generation as well. For that, they need to interbreed, they need to intercourse, and then they need to reproduce. And only same species can actually have that kind of intercourse to reproduce the next generation. Different species cannot reproduce. So they need to interbreed also, and they have a competition also. In my city is divided into different colonies. Every colony has different population of dogs, and they also interact with each other in a kind of, they compete with each other for the resources, for the food. One dog is fighting with another dog for the roti. That's also a resource. One plant is competing with another plant for the resources in the soil. Yes, so everybody is competing with each other. That is also there. It is larger than the organism, of course, जो हम लोगों ने ऊपर किया था, larger than that. For instance, a herd of wild beast, African savanna, etc., etc. Yes, that is there. Then next organization that we have is the community. Community becomes kind of interesting. When different populations are considered together, it becomes the community. When different populations live together in a particular geographical area, it becomes community. Like in my city, there's a population of human beings, population of cows, population of dogs, and population of different plants also, like amrud, guava, like maybe mango trees. When all these populations come together and they live in a particular geographical area, it becomes community. So in a community, different species live together. That is the meaning of this. It's an assemblage. It's a collection of different population, and it can be plants, bacteria, fungi, and they interact with each other also, of course. And they have interaction. That interaction can be of different types. It can be very kind of negative interaction. It can have like positive interaction also. It can have neutral interaction also. Interaction वाला part हम लोग बाद में करेंगे जब हम लोग जो है biotic interaction वाला chapter करेंगे. But yes, they have interaction, right? They have interaction. मतलब they depend on each other, basically, right? These interactions may be predatory, like relation between a tiger and a deer. It can have such a relationship like that. It can have a mutual relationship also, like relation between a legume plant and a cyanobacteria or some other sort of bacteria which are living in the soil. So they have another type of relation, right? Parasite also. जैसे आपने देखा होगा डॉग्स की बॉडी के ऊपर वो लिक मिलते हैं, टिक्स, तो दे हैव अ पैरासाइट आल्सो. So there can be different kind of reaction which will be coming later in the later on chapters. We will cover that also. Next, the organization we have is the ecosystem. Ecosystem. The ecosystem is larger than the community. This term is actually coined by Mr. Arthur Translate in 1935. Ecosystem is the interaction of the organism population community to their abiotic and the non-living organism or environment, right? It is the set of all living species living together in a given area by interacting with both living and the non-living components of their environment. So ecosystem is basically that system where interaction takes place between different population, between different communities, between different organisms, inside themselves and with their surrounding also. Ecosystem is basically that system where that interaction takes place that we study in the ecology section. Then comes the biome. Biome is a kind of larger one. Like biome is like a large regional unit which has, I would say, similar type of characteristics. Like you can take an example of Rajasthan Thar Desert. It's a desert. So when this word comes to my mind, hot desert, so I have a clear picture that what kind of vegetation would be there, what kind of temperature would be there, what kind of soil would be there, and what kind of economic activities that people would be doing there. So I have that character. I have that impression of that particular area. That is the meaning of biome. So biome is basically a large geographical unit which has similar kind of characteristics in terms of vegetation, in terms of temperature, maybe in terms of flora and fauna which is found there. So that's an example of Thar Desert, which is also like a biome. Like we have this taiga and tundra, right? Taiga and tundra. So this is one biome. This is one biome. We have Sahara Desert. This is all desert area. So that is also one biome. It has almost similar characteristics. Like if we go to the equatorial region, so we have this green color. This green color. We have tropical evergreen, very dense forest. So these areas have similar kind of characteristics. So biome means that regional, that area which has sort of similar type of characteristics, majorly in terms of vegetation, but yes, climatic factors also. So biome is an area of the planet that can be classified according to the plants and the animals that live in. A biome can be made up of the many ecosystem, of course. Can be many ecosystem. A biome is a specific geographical region notable for the species living there. So I already told you it's a large area which has similar characteristics, especially in terms of vegetation, flora and fauna. दैट इज कॉल्ड बायोम. बायोम का चैप्टर हम थोड़ा लेटर ऑन करेंगे. इसमें टूंड्रा, डेजर्ट, टेम्परेट फॉरेस्ट, फ्रेश वाटर, मरीन आइस वगैरह वो सब हम लोग लेटर ऑन कवर करेंगे. बट यस, अभी आपके लिए इतना काफी है. देन कम्स द बायोस्फीयर. देन कम्स द बायोस्फीयर, द लार्जेस्ट वन. द होल अर्थ is a whole huge biosphere. Bio means life. Sphere means that zone. So that zone where life exists is called biosphere. And when life कब exist करती है? When there are conducive environment for the survival of the organism, only then life can exist. So biosphere exists where conducive conditions are satisfied, or there are appropriate conditions for life to thrive. That condition happens only when there is interaction between three components: atmosphere, lithosphere, and hydrosphere. When these three components interact, they create a perfect recipe for life to thrive. And that is called biosphere. Where interaction happens, that is called biosphere. If we take atmosphere and hydrosphere out of the equation, life cannot survive only in the rocks. It needs water, it needs air as well. If we take lithosphere means rocks and hydrosphere out of the equation, in atmosphere only, life cannot survive. It needs both. And the same for the hydrosphere also. तो जहां पे ये तीनों आपस में इंटरेक्ट करते हैं, that is the sphere where life exists. That is called biosphere. And this is the highest level of organization. And this is very unique about Earth because life exists, as of now, as we know of it, only on the Earth. This interaction doesn't happen on other known planets or exoplanets. Right? That is there. तो आपको ये पता होना चाहिए. तो life in abundance in biosphere is abundant between 200 meter below the surface of the ocean and about 6,000 meter above the sea level. So life can exist at the bottom of the ocean also, but that is not in abundance. That is just rare existence of life there because situations are not very conducive at the bottom of the ocean. And if you go 6,000 meter above the sea level, like if you go on the Mount Everest, or if you go on the like Nanda Devi, if you go to the like Namcha Barwa, if you go like 6,000 meter above the sea level, life may be possible. Yes, life may exist, but that is not in abundance, right? Conditions are there, but recipe is not very perfect. That is the meaning of it. So 6,000 meter above the sea level and 200 meter below the ocean surface, that you need to understand. So this is the level of organizations that we must understand. Level of organizations that we need to understand. Ecosystem, we already talked about it. Ecosystem. So interaction between abiotic and the biotic component, it makes the ecosystem. And this interaction happens through nutrient cycle and the energy flow. Basically, these two are the most important function of the ecosystem. So ecosystem is that ecosystem where interaction happens. And when interaction happens, energy flow takes place, nutrient flow takes place. And without energy flow and nutrient flow, we cannot survive. So I need nutrient and energy. How do I get that? I get that through food, right? Our plants also need energy and nutrient flow. They get their nutrient from the soil. They get their nutrient from the surrounding air. Every living organism, they need nutrient and they need energy to survive. And that is the basic function of the ecosystem, or that is the basic outcome of the interaction between abiotic and the biotic component. So what about the ecosystem? We already talked about it. So we have different types of ecosystem. Matlab, that interaction can happen in different kind of setting. We have terrestrial ecosystem, which are land-based ecosystem. We have aquatic ecosystem, which is water-based. Water-based. Because that interaction between biotic and abiotic can happen at both regimes. Terrestrial means forest, grassland ecosystem, desert ecosystem. Aquatic means fresh water, saline water, and the marine water. Fresher water means, when soil content is less than parts per million, or when soil content is like less than 5 parts per thousand, right? Because average salinity of the ocean is 35 parts per thousand. If it is less than 5, then it is a fresh water, right? If it is 5 to 25, it is called brackish water, right? You can say saline, brackish water. And if it is more than 25, you can say this is the complete salt water, this is marine water. So basically, we are talking about oceans here. These are our oceans. Brackish water, like they can be like your lagoons, like we have Chilika Lake, like we have Pulicat Lake, we have backwaters of Kerala, where fresh water actually get mixed with the saline water or the ocean water. That we have this kind of brackish water in between stage. So we have different type of terrestrial ecosystem. Like we have forest, we have grassland, we have desert ecosystem, we have tundra and everything. Right? Forest ecosystem, and forest can be of different types. Right? We can have tropical evergreen rainforest. We have deciduous forest also, right? And we have temperate forest also. The different kind of forest that we have. In those forests, different sort of plants exist, different sort of animal also exist. There can be microorganisms also, and they interact with each other. In the grassland ecosystem, like we have different type of grass. We have temperate grassland, we have tropical grassland also, right? And this grassland can be present on the level of latitude also and the altitude also. So if you go in the mountain above a certain height, plants cannot survive. Big plants cannot survive. Only grass can survive. Or like if you go in terms of latitude also. So if you see on the equator, around tropical rainforest, there is grassland. Then there comes this desert. Okay, let me show you because we have already covered this biome thing. Okay, you can see there in Africa. This green dark patch is basically, it is denoting the tropical evergreen rainforest, because here rain is in abundance. This yellow part is your desert. In between this orange part is the grassland. Because here that rainfall is neither too high that it can survive, the like plants cannot survive there, and rainfall is not very low, so that it can become desert. So it is in between. It supports only grassland, right? So that is also terrestrial ecosystem. Terrestrial ecosystem. And then we have our tundra ecosystem. Tundra ecosystem is found where temperature is very, very cold, very, very low. Rainfall is very, very less. That is your tundra ecosystem. You can find that in the Arctic region, Antarctica region, or on the higher mountains where snow is there. Snow, basically tundra means snow. Then we have desert ecosystem that we already covered. It has a little bit rainfall, and that also happens in some seasons only. So here only grass can, even grass cannot survive. So you will find very kind of peculiar type of vegetation, like we'll have a thorny kind of small plants or small grass, right? Cactus or something like that. Then we have aquatic ecosystem. We have freshwater ecosystem and the marine ecosystem. We already covered it. Fresh ecosystem is like our lakes, ponds, rivers, streams, wetlands, right? Marine ecosystem like seas and the oceans. Okay. They have the larger salt content and greater biodiversity in the comparison to the freshwater ecosystem. We will cover that later on. Right now, it was just a type of introduction to you. Okay, let's move to the component of ecosystem. Component of ecosystem, component of environment are actually same. So what about the components? We have two, abiotic and biotic. Biotic means living. Abiotic means non-living. Of course, and they are part of our surrounding. So they make our environment also, because environment is surrounding, and they are a part of our ecosystem also. The ecosystem means interaction. Interaction among abiotic and then with the surrounding. So living means autotrophic and heterotrophic. What does it mean? Autotrophic means they can make their own food. Heterotrophic means they depend upon other organisms for their food requirements. Non-living में we have light, temperature, water, soil, minerals, heat, pressure वगैरह वो सब हम लोगों ने कर लिया था. We are not autotrophic. We cannot make our own food. Only green plants can make their own food. We are consumers. And consumers are also different types. We have primary consumer, secondary consumer, tertiary consumer. We will cover that later on, right? And we have decomposers also. Once we die, so small bacteria, fungi, right? Active monocytes. There is no virus. That was the question in UPSC last year. Which of the following makes the decomposers? Virus are not a part of decomposers. Bacteria, fungi, very simple question in UPSC Prelims last year, right? So once a living organism die, they are decomposed, okay, by bacteria, fungi. They are called decomposers. Now we have different type of consumers, right? First of all, we have producers, which are called autotrophs. So green plants are the only producer. What they do? These green plants, they do photosynthesis. During the process of photosynthesis, they take CO2 from the atmosphere, they take water from the soil, and they take some nutrients also. And then they do process in the presence of light. In the presence of light. And they produce C6H12, yeah, this is O6, and they 6 O2 and water. You can clearly see. They take CO2, carbon dioxide, and water and nutrients from surrounding and atmosphere. They convert that into food, which is C6O12H2O. This is the food which is created by them. They also produce oxygen. We already know photosynthesis, oxygen nikalta hai, and they also release some water as well. So that is the process which is done by the autotrophs. Later on, when we consume food, we get this food from the plants. And this is how we get energy, right? There can be different type of autotrophs. One autotroph is like a proper tree, like a jamun tree, like guava tree, like mango tree. That's a proper one. They are large rooted plants growing on the land or in shallow water as well. Then we have small floating kind of plant organisms. They float over the water. You must have seen like this, somewhere in your ponds or lakes or oceans. Okay. These are the floating plant organisms. They are called phytoplanktons. They are called phytoplanktons. They flow where water flows. They do not have their own individual path. And they do photosynthesis. They are so vast, they are so huge, their quantity is so large that they can absorb more CO2 than the all combined forest on the land. They are so important. They are a type of algae and they float. When they float, they take CO2 from the atmosphere, right? And these phytoplanktons are further consumed by the zooplanktons, which are the animal organisms in the ocean. And this is how that cycle takes place. So we have autotrophs, then we have consumers. Consumers हम कंज्यूम करते हैं, हम प्रोड्यूस नहीं करते हैं, ठीक है. वी कैन नॉट फिक्स कार्बन, ठीक है. वी ओनली कंज्यूम for the nutrient requirement and the food requirement. And we have different type of consumers as well. We have primary consumer, secondary consumer, and the tertiary consumer. Plant eaters are the primary consumer. They are perfect, pure herbivores. Like we have cow, we have rabbit. They do not consume meat. They directly consume the autotrophs for the survival. They are the primary one. Then we have secondary one. These are the carnivores who consume the primary consumer, or they are the secondary consumer. They are the carnivores. Like we have wolves, we have tiger, we have foxes. They can consume other animals also. Tertiary consumers are actually at the top of the pyramid. They can consume other carnivores also. They are so strong. Like tiger, lion. They can consume this wolf also. They can consume the fox also. They can consume cheetah also. They themselves are other carnivores, right? So these are actually top of the chain. Lion, shark, eagle. They can consume other herbivores and other carnivores. They are at the top of the chain. Then there are decomposers. Once these organisms actually die, they are decomposed by bacteria, fungi, right? They are called saprotrophs. They are the reducers or microorganisms. They act on the dead matter. Right? When we consume food, so that those nutrients or those minerals, they actually become a part of very complex process in our body. But when these organisms die, those minerals, they are again converted into simple kind of elements, right? That is done by saprotrophs, and it becomes a part of our environment. So these are the organisms and how they get their energy, of course. So producers get their energy through photosynthesis. Primary producer, they eat the producers, of course, these one. Then we have herbivores, they eat only plants. Secondary consumer, they can eat other, they eat the primary consumer, yes. Carnivores, they eat only animals. Tertiary consumer, they can eat anything. They do not eat plants, but they can eat other animals, right? Then we have omnivore, they can eat plant also, they can eat animal also. Like human beings, you can say some people may be omnivore, right? Then we have decomposers, they feed on the dead body, right? That is there. So this is something that you need to understand about ecosystem and ecology, right? These are the very basic discussions only. They are centered only around the prelims, right? So that is the end of this session, and next सेशन से हम लोग और चीजें स्टार्ट करेंगे. लाइक विल डू इकोटोन सर्विसेज, विल गो अबाउट द बायोटिक इंटरेक्शन ऑल्सो, we'll go about the pyramid also. So those things are going to be covered in the next section. Till then, enjoy this video, and if you have any doubt, you can write down in the comment section, and if you have any suggestions or the feedback also, you can give in the comment section as well. दोस्तों आज के लिए इतना ही है. Thank you very much. All the best. जय हिंद.